right, so we just found a car on the local marketplace that does not run, doesn't drive. They don't know what's wrong with it. Has a clean title, which I hate a clean title, but for parts, I'll take the junk. So we're gonna hook up to this trailer and go grab a pocket full of cash and skate out of here. So we just snagged this car and it actually runs and drives, the owner was saying, and it has a couple things that's wrong with it. It's just idling funny, but if we're gonna get this thing loaded up on the truck and trailer and take it back to shop and see what we got. So there's our car that we picked up yesterday to Malibu. We have 2 Malibus now, so we are trying to combine these two. Financially, they are now tied together. They're one in the books, but it's either use the front end off of this car to fix that car with and do all that cutting, welding, and replacing the panels, or pull items off of that car and put it onto this car to make this car run good. So this car is, I can't remember the year on it. I don't even want to make it up. I think it's a 9 or something, but it has 67,000 miles. So it's very high mileage. But if I can put a couple parts on this one and get this to run and be able to sell this thing for enough to get my money back on both of them, that now I won't owe no money on. So I could pull a couple small parts off that, push that bad boy out back to my junkyard, and then we could purchase another wrecked one in the rear and use parts off of that one, and that would be double, or that would be pure profit on the next one on that, because all I'll have is labor and I'll use parts off that. So basically, if I can use parts off of that to get 2 cars for sale, then you're making way better money. So we believe that the cats might be stopped up. So all Eddie's gonna do is get in there and take the upper O2 sensors out and the lower. Basically, your cats are in your exhaust system, so when your motor's running, it's trying to get exhaust out of the car. If it can't get exhaust out of the car, then it backs up and it goes back inside the motor, which causes stuff that we're not going to explain in this video to make the vehicle not run right, because the exhaust can't escape. So what we're going to do is open the O2 sensors. You have an O2 sensor above the cat and an O2 sensor after the cat. So we're going to pull them out. That way now the exhaust can leave out of the O2 sensor holes and not have to leave through the catalytic converter. So if we pull these, it's going to be louder. It's going to throw a check engine light, obviously, for the O2s. But if it runs better and has its power back, then we know it has bad cats, and all we have to do is change the cats in it. Stay tuned. All right, so Ed's about to crank this thing up, and we'll see if it's got its power back. We've got the O2s still. As you can hear clearly, the O2s are out of it. See if it runs better. If it runs better with the O2s out of it, then you clearly have a stopped up catalytic converter. So Eddie is topping the water off now, and because we had to undo the radiator hose, anytime you're topping your water off of your coolant system after opening the coolant system up, you need to turn your heat on and make sure it's flowing heat. Turn your AC off, of course, that was my fault. But make sure your heat's wide open and your heat's all the way turned there. And then once you feel heat coming out of the vents, then you know that you've got any air pockets out of the coolant system. Because if you don't get the air pockets out of the coolant system, then it will overheat. But it already feels and sounds amazing. I mean, it is idling back perfect like it should be. As of right now, we're gonna let it run for a few minutes. We don't really want to drive it with no O2s in it, because it's just really loud, and it's just, I don't know, you're shooting hot exhaust out of a little O2 port around other wires and stuff like that. So it's not the best idea, but if we can just let it sit here and idle, and if it keeps cranking right up and just goes back to normal, because we know how bad it was a few minutes ago, but if it goes back to being like it sound, or feeling like it should be, then we'll definitely be moving on to probably just cleaning these cats out and trying to get this thing running. All right, so what we're gonna do is we took this funnel, and we always hook a hose to it, and the Seafoam, and you literally just put your hose down inside your hole where your O2 goes. Let me hold that. And then you will pour it in the top here and watch your hole down there. You can see it steaming. Eddie, you have to look down there because I can't get down there. You might want to put your light on it.
What do you mean?
Can you see it clear?
What, the hole?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming in there.
Through the camera, it's all. But that smoke's coming up because we're pouring Seafoam down into the cat, obviously. So it's immediately trying to like burn it off because it's so hot in there.
That was a half can.
That was at half? Okay.
Yep. You want to put more in there or move on to
Yeah, no, let's move on to, let's put, that was a true half can?
I don't know. It was the one that was a partial.
Okay, let's put maybe a half in the back.
Okay.
I think we should split that one. Maybe.
Let's do 3/4 of that, and I'll put the remainder in
There
the
you
back
go.
in the
Yeah,
front.
that's what I was trying to
Well,
say.
that sounds good.
Yeah, you want to just go ahead and finish the front one, or no? Let's do the back and then come back to the front, so the
Yeah.
front can soak in for a minute.
Yeah. Handy dandy little lifesaver. I tell y'all what.
So now he has the hose where the O2 goes and the back cap. That way, as soon as he pours it in here, it's going to go down and into the cat. And all this is doing is this is actually cleaning the cat. So Seafoam is actually a cleaner, and it's easier to take the cats out if you can get them out. But this one is not that easier, being it's a V6. So that's why we're pouring it in there. And he's going to pour 3/4 of this in there. And you'll see it start probably smoking up. Oh, it actually smoked up out the front one because it's just going all in the exhaust system and burning. So we're hoping this cleans the cat out enough to get a good another year or two. Alright, so now we're going to move back onto the front cat. Is it all out?
Yep, that's that.
Now all we're going to do is let it sit in there for a few minutes. I haven't figured out quite yet how long we're going to let it sit in there, but you let it sit in there. You just want to make sure that it goes all the way down and through the cat, hopefully, and then we'll crank it back up and burn it out of there, and then you put your O2s back in and see how it runs with the O2s back in, and you pray that your goal here is that it runs smooth as butter with the O2s in, because now the cleaner has flushed the cats out, and it's actually gonna, whenever he cranks it up, we'll videotape it because it's gonna create a huge smoke cloud out the back of burning it all off. And on this car, if you've been following my other videos, if you recall how we did some melts and stuff, and I told you that they always come back normally later, you know, maybe if you do them certain ways they don't, but here's a good example of a failed car repair. So at some point somebody has done something and the clear coat is delaminating, so you can see it just comes right off. Okay, but that's probably not the factory clear. It's probably been a repair done here, because there's your melt. So you see how that looks, and I can't prove it, but more than likely I'm telling you that's a melt, because the rest of this quarter panel, if you look at it, nothing else is peeling. So if that paint was all the same, and obviously it had been exposed to the same sun, then it would have also failed down here. That's a little in, but yeah, so none of that is, and then all of a sudden you got this severe of failing paint with, you can see a melt line. Yeah, somebody has done something here at some point in its life and just wanted to paint just this little area, and did a melt, and now however many years later the melt and the blend zone's failing. Alright, so Ed's about to crank it up, and it's probably, as I say, some of it's coming out the back, but a lot of it's probably not going to, because it's clogged up. But it's definitely got a lot more flow than it had earlier, because earlier we stuck our hand down there and it wasn't flowing none. So it's definitely going to be coming out from underneath the hood, obviously, but we have flow out the tailpipe now. And you got to remember the O2s are undone, okay? So all the exhaust is trying to come out the O2 ports up front and not go through the cat. So this shows you that there is exhaust, some exhaust coming through the cats now, even though the O2s are out, because the path of least resistance would be out the O2, but it's not forcing it out the O2 all the way, and some's actually flowing through the cat. So that looks promising in the video, but you can see what this mess looks like whenever it's going on. We've actually had the neighbors call the fire department on us once, thinking that the car's on fire when we were doing this. But our plan here is let this run. This is Friday. We're approaching 11 o'clock, so we do close at 11. Let this run for a few minutes and get some heat in it, and then we're gonna let it cool all weekend. And then while the motor's cold, we're gonna go ahead and screw the O2 sensors in there, put them back in. We're gonna put the bottom O2 sensor in first. and then screw, put the bottle in the front and the bottle in the back of the catch. You put the bottom O2 in front so it don't run out your O2 hook, because if the cat's flowing right, then all your Seafoam will run right out your bottom O2 sensor. So put that in first, then your Seafoam while the motor's cold, and then you can get your hands in there, put your O2s back in your top O2 sensors, and crank it up and let it all burn it out. You'll let it sit for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes so it really work its way through, and then you'll crank it up, and then you'll do all this smoking, you'll rev it up some, try to get it out, and then you'll drive it around the block a couple times, and then hopefully you'll have a perfectly running car again, because hopefully you cleaned your cat successfully. This is how crazy this looks. I mean, like, you can see it coming out of the vents inside the car. You can see it coming out of everywhere because it's just burning out of the O2. So it literally looks like a freaking car's on fire. So
yeah, all the smoke's coming out of there, and then your air, when it takes air from the inside, it's going straight into the vent. You can actually see it sucking into the car.
Yeah, so like Ed said, it's literally sucking it into the air system. So you're definitely going to need to run your air before you sell the car, because you'll definitely have the air system smelling like smoke. Ed's got all the windows down and everything. That way it's all, you know, not. I mean, look how crazy it is. So,
Like Cheech and Chong hopping out.
yeah, Cheech and Chong. Pretty crazy sight to see. And like I said, if you don't know what you're looking for and the neighbors are looking across the street, then they're going to be like, what in the world is going on over there? I mean, the fire truck shows up here in a couple minutes and asks that we had a call because the car was on fire. So it's definitely running better. Eddie has took the put the bottom O2 sensor in and poured 1 can of Seafoam in each cat, and then took the top O2s and put them back in, and now he's going to take it on the test drive and see how it does. What this is going to do is it's going to burn off all the rest of the Seafoam that is in the cats, and when he drives it, that's going to help burn it out and push it all out and clean everything out, hopefully. And then hopefully when he gets back, everything will still be good to go, and hopefully it will idle fine and drive fine, and hopefully we can put this thing for sale and try to recoup this money on this Malibu. But when you do these Seafoam things and you are driving them, you're going to get all kinds of crazy looks. People are going to think the car's on fire. People are going to think that motor's blowed up. Like Ed one time had somebody take a picture or film him and then post it on a local page that basically, look at this idiot driving a blowed up car. And when in reality what it was is the idiot that took the video and posted it online didn't have a clue what was going on. So don't always jump to conclusions when you see something, but boy, if you were here and you could smell this stuff absolutely stinks, man. So he's gonna romp it pretty good and get on it hard and try to blow everything out the tailpipe that is built up in there and get this exhaust back free flowing. The cans of Seafoam were about $9.99 here a piece, so basically 10 bucks each. So if we put 1.5 in originally, that's about 15 bucks, and then we just put 1 can in each Seafoam or each cat this morning, so then that's another $20. So right now that's about $35 in cleaning the exhaust system out, and hopefully it works. All right, so there we go. We just pulled the Malibu off the frame rack, and we are done with this one. This one's actually not gonna get repaired this time. So this one's gonna get put out back, and we're actually gonna sell the other one. We'll use this one for parts. What we'll do is I'll go on IAA and I'll find one that either needs the door, back bumper, trunk lid, tail lights, you know, the back half of the car, the good stuff, or even the hood on the front. I'll use this thing for parts to get my some of my money back. I should clear enough money on the other one that I don't need to recoup money, and if that's the situation, then what will happen is every time we repair a Malibu using this car, then it will be all free parts, and the only thing that we will have in it at that moment is labor. But she's running still. I mean, it's sad when the car is like this, but seats need to be clean. She's running, and she'll drive out back on her own will to her deathbed, but I'm just not wanting to repair that. I don't like repairing that stuff. Typically, that's not my style. Normally, I try to stay away from that stuff and do what we're doing. So that's another way of how you can get yourself out of a bad car. But remember, this car was purchased for parts, so we were going to use this whole front end off of this car to fix the other one. And what ended up happening is that we were able to just clean the cat system out and get the thing up and running. So why would I do all that work to a salvage title, you know, whenever I can just sell this one, hopefully recoup the money. I'm only about 2,000 to 22 in both of these cars, so they're not bad. The seats were dirty, but we didn't feel like taking them out and cleaning them, so we just ordered some cheap seat covers from Advanced Auto Parts to throw them on there and get it together. I literally just didn't want the time. So when it comes to pulling the seats and cleaning them, it's going to take my main guy probably about 2 hours. By the time he takes them out, washes them, sets them up to dry, and then puts them back in, he's probably going to have 2 hours in them roughly. For what he makes an hour, then seat covers were just way more practical to do than, you know, than to clean the seats and all that stuff. So I mean, the car has 260 some thousand miles on it, so anybody that buys that, the seats are not going to be the end of the world to them anyway. They're probably just looking for a car that drives from point A to point B. It does have a pending evap code on it. We're not going to fix that either. We're just going to put that in the ad to disclose to the buyer that it does have a pending large leak evap code. So we replaced the gas cap on it, and that still didn't fix the issue. So there's just probably a simple leak somewhere. It's not in the world, but again, I mean, I'm trying to get myself out of debt. I'm not trying to put myself more deeper in debt by having my guy work on it and repair it. But car, it's a good little car, so I think it'll make somebody a perfect car. But that's just another way that you can recoup money on bad purchases. You know, I'm gonna teach y'all all kinds of ways when you get yourself in a predicament. These are the different methods that you can get yourself out of them. I actually have 2 vehicles at the auction right now that I sent back. If you look back at the black LTZ video, then you'll recall the LTZ that we actually sent back and made $1,000 on. I have 2 more at the auction that we did not get that lucky on. They didn't even bring enough to recoup the money. So we will be bringing them back to the shop, and I'll have to figure out a way to get myself out of them. One I've actually owned for 1.5 years. That's a stupid car with a clean title. I hate clean titles. I got an idea in my head one time that I was going to buy some couple clean titles and flip them, and never again, no more clean titles unless I'm in a predicament like that clean title out front. I hate them. I hate clean titles, man. Salvage is where it's at for me. That's where the money's at. That's where the good cars are at. They've just been an accident. I have very good luck with salvage. We could go a whole hour video on why I'd rather have salvage than clean titles. There's thousands and thousands of clean titles on the road, no issues. There's thousands of clean titles for sale, no issues. So it's not like clean title's a dud. It's just the line of work I'm in and where I get my vehicles from and how I get my vehicles. Clean titles are just an absolute waste of my time. So I do salvage. But I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna, like I said, get that thing out back, and then she's done, sadly. But as long as I get my money back on these, then I'm perfectly fine. And then on the next Malibu, when I buy a rear end hit or side swipe, that's when I'll finally start making money on these Malibus. We will cut the catalytic converters out of this car, and they get scrapped to a cat buyer that I have that buys all my cats. And that's actually how we fund the race car that's on this channel. So the comment on this channel, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. The comment's actually all funded off of junk parts and stuff like that. So anytime I throw a car away, essentially, that's race car money for the cats. And then the business will now financially own this car for parts. Once we are done with parts, like if we do a rear end hit and stuff and we've got all these parts off of it, when we crush this car, because eventually this car will get crushed, normally they bring about $200 when you crush them. That $200 will be put in the race car too. So any money that's easy to get like that in small amounts, we put it in the race car, and everything else goes, everything else is owned by the business until then. So I have to do a whole video if y'all are interested in how I have kept my race car project and my business completely separate, because the race car actually has its own banking account and the business of course has its own banking account. So they're 2 separate financial investments, I guess you could say, or expenses. So like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned because I'm going to teach you more on the next video. Enjoy.